Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm doing well. You look really cool right now. I love your hair.
Thank you. Good morning, Miss Nancy. Good morning, everyone else. And sorry, I'm not mentioning you all by name, but I don't want to forget anyone. I'm going to, good morning. I'm going to share my screen.
The roosters, or whatever you call it, crowing. No, what do you say a rooster does?
Crow.
Okay, so yeah, the roosters are crowing outside. It's a beautiful morning. It's not raining. Did you guys get any rain, West Siders, during this whole thing? You did? Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for being on the call and welcome. Today, I just have a couple of things I wanted to cover with you. It's kind of a weird way to start the morning, although, you know, here we are. This is when our huddle is. Oh, that reminds me. So I do want to take a little poll. Maybe Latasha, you could create a quick survey. I'm not sure if you can do that on the fly. Do you know how to do that on the fly? Well, wait, we're muted.
I can try. Yeah.
Okay, if not, we'll just take an old school poll and people can raise their hand or whatever, or put the thumbs up. But I want to get a sense of if we moved this meeting. There have been some requests to move this meeting to the afternoon and not have it in the morning. So I wanted to get a sense of if everybody here would be agreeable to that, if it's preferable, or if you can make it if it's in the afternoon. Because what I don't want to do is accommodate the other people and then have you guys not be able to attend. So Latasha, if you can create a poll and you can work on it during this, and we can do it at any time, afternoon, morning, whatever, that would be great. Okay, so two things. One is I had 2 credits. I have had 2 credits to complete for my CE for quite some time. I don't know if anybody was like me. I mean, I had gotten all the other ones out of the way, and then there was like 2 more elective credits that I had to complete. So I finally did it this weekend, and the minimum amount of credits per class is 3 credits. So, you know, that's what I think everybody runs into. We all have an extra credit, woo us. And so I took the class that I decided to take was a safety class, because you guys know, some of you know, I'm pretty into that. And we've taught a personal and professional safety class before. And there was some really good stuff in there. And what I want to do is just, you know, we tend to take for granted things like this because we live on an island, and we're fortunate in that not a lot of crime overall happens here, and especially in regard to the real estate industry. However, that's not the case in other areas. And with this year being as crazy as it has been for people, and in terms of COVID and financially, I really just want you guys to be aware, right? To be open and aware, not attracting it, not going crazy, not freaking out about it, but really just having more of an awareness around the people that you know, take in your car, or that you're meeting, or that you have an open house, even if it's by appointment. Okay, so Latasha created a poll. So do you want to keep the meeting? Okay, wait, so hang on, it says 100 people. Oh, everybody's still saying keep the meeting time. Okay, well, all right. I guess the question was whether people could attend in the afternoon. However, if everybody says they want to keep the meeting time at 8:30, then there we go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to let that continue, and we're going to keep talking about safety for the moment. So what I wanted to share with you is, in this training class, there were some stories that were told about things that actually happened, case studies, as well as incidences. And so in terms of creating best practices for the office, and this is something Michelle and I can discuss further as we review and update the policy and guidelines manual, we are, you know, I certainly am looking at and adding some best practices for safety, and things that we've typically left it up to you guys and haven't made any office policies around it. And I do respect that having the freedom to do that and run your business the way that you want is important. And also I want you to be aware of things. So we either increase the training or there's minimal things that we require. For example, most brokerages require that if you are going to show a property to somebody, that you're going to take somebody out to look at property, that we have their ID on file, that we just request a copy of their ID. One, it's to verify that they're the person. Two, they're less likely to be a criminal if they're going to provide you with their ID. And it also, a lot of these things that we put in place for safety can also double as pre-qualifying people so that you're not also wasting your time. So I just want to share with you a couple of kind of kooky stories. And there were one of the big ahas that I took away was that it's not always strangers. So there were some stories where there were past clients that had been upset or disgruntled. And keep in mind, we're going into a market, not at this very moment. However, eventually we're going into a market that's going to be shifting. As we had seen, those of us who were in the last market shift, property values went down significantly, and there may have been people that bought their property in a high market and now the value went down. There's no equity in the property, and people can get upset about that, right? I don't know if you've ever experienced that. So, which is why we don't talk about or guarantee any kind of appreciation, because we just don't know in the market cycles. However, if somebody's in a position where they're forced to sell in a down market, that can create financial stress for them. So I'm going to tell you one story. So regarding clients, so one agent's former client, 73-year-old Robert Johnson, was upset because he felt he had overpaid for his home. He had decided to sell the home, and a different agent told him that it wasn't worth what he had paid for it. Johnson went to meet the agent with whom he had previously worked and shot him and killed him at the office. I know, right? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Okay. So I'm just, again, awareness, right? This is not to freak you out. It's just to make you think about these things. In another case, Robert Grigladius was angry over a deal which his wife lost her home and allegedly lured her male agent to one of the listings and murdered that person too. So, just being aware of those things, I think are important. So I'm going to give you some tips. And I'm also going to talk about distracted driving, which I don't know why it goes right into that. Some people are afraid of being considered paranoid, right? So you might go, well, I don't want to be paranoid. I don't want to ask uncomfortable questions to somebody. And the perfect balance between not me and everyone is out to hurt me would be to have a healthy respect for people and their capabilities and intentions. And no, not everybody is like you in terms of having good intentions. There are good intentions, there are bad intentions. So with that mindset, you can establish a system of procedures. Looking out for your own safety is the smart thing to do, and it's an integral part of your overall professionalism as a self-employed business person. A criminal doesn't always look like a criminal. I mean, how many of you, just out of curiosity, have been at, say, an open house and, people have come into that open house and you maybe were a little bit concerned or had a gut instinct that this person was questionable in terms of their intention? Okay, Michelle, so you're raising your hand. How many of you have actually experienced a situation where somebody has stolen something from an open house or a showing, whether it's medication? Okay, so Michelle, or valuables, which is one of the reasons why we have that conversation with clients. So Michelle, tell me your story. I just want to hear real scenarios that happened here to help us.
With a prior company that I had my own company, during an open house, someone came in and stole jewelry from the home. Even though we tell our clients put away their valuables, they were put away, but they were in the top drawer of a dresser. So literally they were in a bedroom, opened the dresser, and that's right where the stuff was. So she had taken it off the dresser top, but put it in a very obvious place. I've also had situations where I had people enter and I felt extremely uncomfortable right away. I've even stepped out the front door and allowed them to go in and stayed out front because, in the moment you have to react. One of the things I tell new agents in my broker orientation is I never put anyone in my car, ever. There's no reason anyone ever has to be in your car. They can follow you, they can meet you there. And I always require them to meet me at the office first. I never cold meet anyone at a property. We have a consultation, be it buyer or seller, at the office, even if it's 10 minutes, and then we go. I
Mhm.
never meet them somewhere other than a public place or the office. And, you should never go to a remote area for a listing or a showing by yourself, be it male or female. I've had requests for showings way out on the North Shore, very isolated places with people I don't know. I don't go by myself, or I don't go at all.
Yeah, that's a good point. They talk about bringing somebody with you, right? If you're, I mean, just in general, it's good to have another person. Now, it doesn't always diffuse something if somebody
It
has.
could still leave you at risk, but
Yeah.
at least there's a second person and you can split. I mean, it's harder to grab two people than one person. I've even given up listings way out on the North Shore because they were so isolated and I just wasn't comfortable doing showings out there. So I think it's a real risk, and stress makes people do things you think they're never capable of. And I would rather be cautious and have our team be in good shape than not have some guidelines.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about kind of gut feelings too, because that is not something to ignore. And in situations where something happens, almost always the person had a feeling that they ignored. There's a great book called The Gift of Fear, which talks about our natural gut instincts and not to ignore them. Thank you, Ashley, for being open about, having that as a concern of why you've been held back from doing open houses. Yeah, I mean, there's precautions you can take to make you feel safer. And again, fortunately, we've been okay here, but we also don't want to be naive. And so the gut feeling, if you've ever experienced that, I mean, I think everybody here has experienced that in some form or fashion, right? Where you have that kind of gut feeling about someone or a situation that you were in. And that's a survival instinct, right? We're wired for that for a reason. And you want to not ignore that. And we've been programmed as people to be logical thinkers. And so that oftentimes will overcome, I mean, even where you've made poor decisions in your life, right? Like you have a feeling, an initial thought about it or a reaction to it, and then you logically think your way out of that. And so that, you have to be aware of that and yourself and knowing yourself and just pay attention, right? If that situation is coming up. Joanne's saying, yeah, she's been in since 1986 and never had a problem. I mean, most of us haven't. We might have had a situation that we worried about or we made a choice on, and that could have turned into something.
Lisa.
Yes, Keone.
And so, everybody should think solution based, right? So if your fear of open house, do bring somebody with you and have ups, right? Somebody take the first person, somebody take the next person. If you go into a showing and there is, valuables out, let everybody know that they're there. I had a situation where the owner left the Rolex out. So I brought everybody that was there and everybody looked at it. I said, okay, everybody see the Rolex? Okay, now no one's going to go back into this room, right? Closed the door, called the owner and said, hey, your Rolex is out. I told everybody, we all saw it. We closed the door. Nobody else went back in there, right? So you got to cover yourself too. But I think that we're fortunate here on Maui, but there has been some incidents that they weren't violent or anything, just some weirdos, but report that too. Make sure you report it to the brokerage. You report it to RAM. That's how we get the word out, through RAM. They put posts up of weirdos that are currently available in the area.
Somebody is getting calls or something like that, or somebody is being seen at properties, they'll usually let us know. That's a great idea about the valuables too, because there's a good point about not wanting to touch that. That's really the owner's property, and you as an agent also don't want to do anything. You say, hey, this is what it is. You take a picture of it, whatever, and let everybody know. I like that, Keone. That's a good one. Amanda says, Crystal says, so after meet in the office, do you allow in car to see property? Some people do, some people don't. A best practice is for them to meet you at the property. I also always did that, and not necessarily for safety, but for other reasons, and safety would be another good one, is that they can meet you at the property. So you can go and
I
think
never,
that's a really
look,
smart idea right now too, especially because of the health
I
situation.
never put someone in my car. And with COVID, you should not be putting someone, the car is too small for you to social distance. Some agents argue, well, this is my bonding time. Well, you know what? I put them on my cell phone on speaker and we talk all the way driving to the property. And I say, okay, now the next house we're going to see. And I start talking about it because I have the sheets, I've glanced at them and I'm dialoguing with them. And I have never once had a client say, boy, why wouldn't you put me in your car?
Yeah.
They don't even think twice about it. Just set the expectation. This is how we're going to be handling our showings. Boom. And once you set that expectation, there's no issues.
Thank you, Michelle. Amanda says, I always tell someone where I'm going, when I can get there, when I leave, if I can't have somebody join me in person. Absolutely, Amanda. They talked a lot about that, of having a system in place, or where you notify somebody, your office, or somebody that is your go-to person, or you text them and you have a distress signal, like if there is something wrong, or, at least people know where you are and where you're going, which again, we don't require you to do because you're not employees of the company, you're independent contractors. We don't really have a say over where you are and what you're doing. Like, you can run your business the way that you want. However, that is a best practice in terms of safety, is to be able to let people know that. And Joanne said, bring a mortgage person with you. Yeah, I used to do that when and have a mortgage person with me at a property for showings or at open houses, because that was great. They were providing information regarding pre-qualifying and asking pre-qualifying questions and getting contact information. So that's another great thing. And most loan officers would do that with you. However, at this point, again, you're doing appointments. So it's a little bit different, but you can have somebody go with you to an appointment. Nancy's saying the shooting sounds like an extreme situation. I've never asked for an ID of prospects and would feel uncomfortable with it. I've always put people in my car and use the time to build a relationship. Nancy, that is your call. They do address that and all of those things that you mentioned a lot in this class. And these are a lot of things that agents say. And part of what they talked about was the mindset of, this will never happen to me, or this would never happen to me. And the people that it did happen to definitely felt that way as well. So I'm not saying you have to do anything. I want that to be clear. The number one thing that's most important when it comes to safety is situational awareness. Number one. So if you're situationally aware, you're not distracted walking to your car at night on your phone. You're not, in a property where the client is behind you and you're leading them. Like, those are not, if you follow best practices and allow you to be situational aware, pay attention to your gut instinct when you meet people. Is it a weird way somebody's looking at you? Are they avoiding eye contact completely, or are they staring at you? Like, those things are signs that are telling you, hey, be aware and be cautious and proceed with caution. So if you met a person, Nancy, that their behavior led you to feel uncomfortable, that I would trust, in that case, you would not put them in your car, and you would not, you might ask for ID. So the protocol per the class was to treat everybody the same way. So you're not doing that piecemeal, you're creating a best practice. But you know what? Thank you for sharing that. And that's, a lot of agents are in that situation. And we're not forcing you to do anything. I really just want you to be aware, because people think about it and it's top of mind when there's a news headline, right? Beverly Carter, the woman on Oahu that was killed and rolled up in a carpet. Like, that was Oahu. So that's a realtor. That was a realtor. So when things like that happen, that's when everybody is like, okay, we're going to teach about it. We're going to talk about it. So my goal with this idea of introducing it today is to have these things where we're consistently talking about it, so that you guys, it becomes more habitual, and you talk about and think about what best practices you want to implement and how you run your own business. So I appreciate that though, Nancy, thank you. And I do think a lot of people are in the same boat as you are. Another thing that they talked about was, and Michelle's point about being on the phone, and this is just in general, was distracted driving. Not to say we're not on the phone and speaker, obviously hands-free and legally we can do things like that. But I just want to bring your attention to a few things that when we talk about realtor safety, distracted driving was another one that was discussed. And so the key things that you have to be aware of when you're driving, and I mean, most of us are guilty of this in some capacity, unless you're really good about like, I'm just driving and I'm doing literally, I'm not on the phone, I'm not like, thinking about other things. Because for me, it's sometimes that cognitive thing where I'm thinking about other things that I have to do. I'm driving, but we kind of go on autopilot. So the things you want to be aware of for distracted driving is 4 types of distractions. Visual, so you're looking at something other than the road. I mean, obviously, you guys, right? Let's not get into the habit of doing that, of looking at things other than the road. So even if you're like dialing somebody because you're going to make a call, that's distracting. Auditory, if you hear things or you're listening to things that are not related to driving. Manual would be manipulating something other than the wheel, touching something else, not keeping your hands on the wheel. Cognitive is thinking about something other than driving. So again, they compare distracted driving to drunk driving, people, experts, because it follows the same psychological pattern. They see the same psychological patterns. So just to be aware, it's a tricky problem. It's hard to really monitor, but a lot of people admit to blatantly hazardous driving. So I wanted to bring that up because I was shocked at the numbers. It was like 80% of people admitted to it. And the largest cause of distracted driving was letting their mind wander. So rather than keeping your mind on the road. And, when they study accidents, that was another thing. So mindset, they talk about mindset being one of the biggest assets in practicing personal safety protocols. So most people feel like this couldn't happen to me. No one wants to brood over various what if situations and assume everyone else is out to cause them harm or think of themselves as a victim. And that's natural and normal to have those thoughts. So, the other thing that they talked about, last thing on this topic, and then we can move on, was comparing it to when you go to an auto dealer and the best practices there, right? Can you just go on a car lot and just say, hey, I want to drive your car, give me the keys, or this is the one I want, I'm going to go test drive it, I'll bring it back, right? No, there's protocols in place. They want to make sure nobody's going to steal the car. They want to validate who that person is, the information that they have a driver's license. So they ask you for your ID. They typically have somebody talk to you, interview you, see the situation. Often they'll go with you, not 100% of the time, but they go through a process before they work with that person and figure out what it is that they're going to do with them. And it's, when we talk about cars, a car could be, yeah, sure, you could buy a car for $100,000 or whatever. Probably the average price of a car is going to be 60-ish, $40,000 to $60,000. This is a huge, we're talking about $1 million, right? Or whatever it is for a property. So it's just a different perspective of how you think about it. Dealers are going to make sure that you provide proof, and we don't question that because we get it, we understand it. So if you train your clients that way, like Michelle has her practices, I know a lot of agents that have very specific things that they do in regard to their job, not necessarily safety related, but I'm just getting your mindset around thinking about things differently. A real estate professional's life is worth incalculably more than a car, yet many are hesitant to require anything from a stranger calling to see a property where they'll put themselves in potential danger. And here's the thing that we don't think about, and I learned this, I do some of this training with military and stuff like that, and they talk about, again, with situational awareness, that you don't believe, like, I'm a nice person, I like to think, we're all like pretty much good people, and we don't understand the way a criminal thinks, right? Because we're not criminals. So we don't get the way that they think. So in order to understand that, you almost have to think like a criminal would to understand where your potential danger lies. One thing we can count on is perpetrators of crime depend on law-abiding people's expectations of safety, trust, and complacency. So complacency is dangerous too. Okay, now that you're like super excited about all that. Okay, we're gonna move on. And the other thing that I wanted to make sure to bring up, and a couple of people are saying, oh, Stacy, who kind of knows and is on that side of the spectrum. Stacy says police cannot get to faraway places quickly. So think about it. And this is somebody who works with police. So thank you for that. And then Crystal says someone who ran a farmer's market disappeared on Kauai. So, I mean, it happens, again, not as frequently here. However, keep in mind, right, we're open again. People are coming from the mainland. Typically, somebody's not going to pay for a trip to Maui to commit a crime. However, they may, and however, their mindset and the way that they think might be different because of the environment that they're in typically or live in. All right, let's talk about health insurance. We're just going to segue into health insurance. Other things you guys can do to take care of yourselves. I want to remind you, because some of you may not know this, Keller Williams has an agreement, a partnership, I should say, with a company called Stride Health. And there is a website, and I'm going to share it with you. It's called kw.stridehealth.com. So for those of you who do not have health insurance, or maybe you're on a health insurance program or spouses or whatever, I mean, if you're on a spouses, that's probably great. Or however, you do have health insurance options as an independent contractor in real estate, and Keller Williams specifically offers things that, you know, possibly other real estate companies don't, which is this partnership. We used to have another partnership previously, and they were not really set up in Hawaii. The options that they had were significantly more expensive, or they really didn't have great options for us. That has changed, you guys. So I wanted to bring this to your attention because there is open enrollment starting again November 1st. And you can go to, this is a pretty cool website. You can go to kw.stridehealth.com, and you can actually just go and do like a quote. You just put in a little bit of information about you, and it will spit out like your top 3 options for our area, what company and what the plan looks like and how much it costs, without giving them a lot of private information or submitting an application. So if you do not have health insurance, or it's something, you know, you may have had, don't have anymore, whatever, you want to look at other options, open enrollment starts again November 1st. So we can send this out via email as well. I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware, because a lot of times people don't know. And then when they come to me, I let them know, but people don't know. So any questions? I'm guessing you guys probably, okay, Amanda's saying email. Okay, so we'll get that out to you too, but kw.stridehealth.com is the website. And okay, let me see if there was else. Michelle, what do you have? Do you have anything for the group?
Well, I had something last week I held for this week, but now we have 3 minutes. So I don't know if I should hold it for next week.
You can, no, you were going to tell, was this the story?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to hear it. We're telling it.
Okay, well, this goes in concert with your talk about shifting your mindset. And so I had a story told to me a couple weeks ago that really made me rethink how I look at negotiation when someone is in conflict over an item. So the example is 2 people want an orange, and our innate natural thought process as realtors is cut it in half, we'll split the difference. But splitting the difference isn't always going to meet your client's needs of what they really want. So it's really important when you have something that 2 people want, whether it's a difference in price or, you know, a feature or whatever, that you really drill down with additional questions to find out what is it they really want. So in the situation where we asked additional questions, we determined that one person wanted the orange so they could eat the orange, and the other person wanted the orange so they could use the peel of the orange for an art project. So we were able to give each person what they needed in that moment, and met their needs. And yet our innate inner sense would have been, well, let's just cut the orange in half and give each person half. But the one person who wanted the peel didn't care about the orange, the fruit itself. And the person who wanted the fruit didn't care about the peel. So it really made me take a step back on negotiating, and when we're looking at contracts and questions that we're asking, that we don't allow our own biases or what our own thought would be to cloud that judgment, but that we really drill down additional questions to find out, well, what's really important to you about this? So I just wanted to share that with everyone as a mindset shift. It really was for me. And I hope that that will give you some things to consider as you work with clients moving forward this week.
That was awesome. What a great illustration to talk about, getting more clarity around what it is that they want. What is it about the orange that's important to you? Right? That's one of the questions we always ask. What is it about X that's important to you? And that solves the problem. The other big thing I would say that has helped, my number one thing that has helped with negotiation in the past when it comes to property and when you're in contract negotiations is asking, and I've told some of you this, you literally, if you're the buyer's agent, you call the listing agent and you ask them questions and say, is there anything that's a deal breaker for the seller in this deal? What is it that's most important to them in the contract in terms of clauses, closing dates, whatever? And then they'll tell you if there is one. And lo and behold, the offer gets accepted. And when there's multiple offers, nobody else asked that question. And if a deal breaker was their closing date, and we're automatically assuming they want a quick one, and sometimes they don't, sometimes they have a timeline and they want a longer closing date, you're the only offer that provides that because you asked, and all of a sudden you get it. So I love that, the negotiation, the asking questions. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
And then the last thing I want to add on is that in addition to the health insurance that's offered through KW, we also have member benefits through realtor.com. Or excuse me, not realtor.com, NAR. So if you haven't visited the National Association of Realtors member website, go to member benefits. I know they have dental insurance in addition to health insurance and something else, maybe life insurance. But check out the member benefits at NAR. I mean, we already are paying your dues and you have access to all of this, whether it's discounts at FedEx for shipping or printing, or buying printers or computer equipment. I mean, there's just a whole list, car rentals, all sorts of stuff. Check it out.
Thank you for that reminder. And KW also has other deals like that as well, like Office Max. Rochelle reminded me every time they go to Office Max, they get a discount because they're with KW. So I would like to maybe let people know where that resource is, because I'm not 100% sure at the moment where to find it. I know it's in our intranet. There's a link. Maybe Latasha, that's something we can send out on the tech side in a follow-up email or in our Friday email, a link to reminder for discounts, where to go to find those, as well as the Stride Health information. We'll send that out in our weekly email. All right, you guys, anything else? Thank you so much. Great to see you. Happy Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
everybody.
Hi, Kamalani. We'll welcome everybody at the next team meeting.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you, guys. Aloha.